Dota has been around for a while. It's been 17 years since the game was released and much has changed since then. But the heart of the game is still pretty much the same. The map, the heroes and the runes have undergone tons of changes.
Runes!
Roshan has even moved his home 3 times since the early days. And while Dota is quite different from what it was during the early 2000s, some of the most memorable changes have been the hero changes. The heroes even look way different from what they originally were. Today, we have an in-depth look at some of these heroes and discuss the changes they went through purely from the historical perspective. However, before we start, we need your help with some issues that we're facing at the channel. So please stick around until the end of the video and you could solve our problem. Today, we're talking about Pudge. Pudge was a rather popular hero back in Dota 1. A good Pudge player was someone to be feared, as he could single-handedly win you pubs. He had an insane ability to snowball, gaining extra HP and magic resistance for every single kill. His signature meat hook is one of the most satisfying spells to land in the game and requires precision and timing to hit consistently.
And then away to safety. Hook! Latch him and pull him back in again. That escape from FY.
Given his short cooldowns, he can easily snowball out of control. This makes the hero extremely rewarding to learn and master, and also made him the inspiration for many other characters in other MOBAs. Thresh from League of Legends and Devaro from Horn are based on Pudge. I mean, when you look up Devaro on Horn, he's literally a straight out ripoff of Pudge. The damage values, the spells, it's basically Pudge reskinned and packaged for a different map. Fortunately for us Dota fans, he received a lot of love not just from the community but also from IceFrog. While Horn has a measly 3-line lore to their fake Pudge, Dota has a lot more to Pudge than just that. In Warcraft 3 Dota, Pudge's initial hero model was originally based off of the Butcher from Diablo 1.
Fresh meat.
Where he was the first boss you'd encounter in the game. The boss was designed such that it was next to impossible to beat him in the first try. Once the player had enough levels, they could come back and finally kill the Butcher. In Dota All-Stars, Pudge was based on the Abomination from Warcraft 3, a huge creature made from the corpses of fallen units that had discombobulated arms and giant levers and stuff. Needless to say, the guy looked pretty hideous. In Dota 2, the hero was a fusion of the Diablo 1 model and Warcraft 3 models, regaining the apron from the Butcher and getting the stitches and rings from the Abomination. Pudge also has a pretty interesting lore in Dota 2. Apparently, Pudge actually works as the guy who collects dead bodies in a battlefield south of Pudge, where the corpses cannot decompose or decay, so the only option is to chop them up into tiny pieces so crows, vultures and ravens can eat them. Eventually, as Pudge started getting better and better at his job, he also started getting a taste for the meat of the dead bodies. And then, he somehow ended up in the Battle of the Ancients, presumably to find some more corpses. In fact, Pudge was a place where Dark Willow was apparently once stuck with a fairy Jex.
Could be worse, Jex. At least we're not stuck in Pudge. Pudge is a lovely little town, Pudge.
On April 2, 2018, Valve went one step further by adding an Arcana for the hero, the Feast of the Absession Bundle. According to the Arcana lore, a priestess wanted to bind the servants of the dead god using specially enchanted chains. These chains were supposed to contain and control the dead god's servants, but their corruption was so powerful that the chains actually turned on their own creator, the priestess, and killed all her people. Pudge happened to find these chains long after the slaughter was over and decided to eat them. The sentient chains were unable to leave the domain of the priestess, but thanks to Pudge's insane appetite, they were freed from their bondage. The chains ended up forming a symbiotic relationship with Pudge, and now he uses them to chop up some dead bodies. Kind of a funny ending to a somewhat dark story. However, there is another and much more prominent reason for the hero's popularity. That reason is Dendi. Dendi is arguably the face of Dota 2. Pudge and Dendi are synonymous, so chances are, if you've heard about one, You've probably also heard about the other. Dendi is a Ukrainian player who is famous for his aggressive, space-making playstyle. Dendi played a lot of Pudge in his pubs, and was so revered that teams would often ban the hero in professional matches against Dendi's team, Na'Vi. In fact, if you were to search for Dendi Pudge on YouTube right now, you'll still find compilations of Dendi absolutely stomping teams. But there's still something we haven't touched upon.
Match point for the upper bracket semifinals. Tong Fu taking on the fan favorite Na'Vi.
Navi's trailing. No, they pick it.
Tong Fu is going to continue to push. They're not done. Mech still hasn't even been used. There's a hook.
Yeah, we're talking about the infamous
Fountain hook.
fountain hook.
There's a hook. How? Brought all the way back to the base. Cleaned up by the fountain.
The fountain hook was something that Na'Vi came up with during their upper bracket match against Tong Fu. Tong Fu had the lead through most of the game, and Na'Vi's early game draft had failed to create the impact it needed. The way it occurred was simple. Chen would teleport Pudge back to base, and just when the Pudge was about to be teleported, he'd throw a hook. Over the course of the game, Dendi landed 7 fountain hooks, out of which one completely changed the course of the game. Just after finishing Roshan and grabbing the Aegis, Hao decided to go headfirst into the Na'Vi jungle. Dendi, who was already being teleported back to base, launched a hook that took Hao with him. Hao ended up losing the Aegis as well as the second life, and the doors to victory were busted wide open by Na'Vi.
Remove that from the game. That was the biggest joke I've ever seen.
Hooking Tong Fu players with Chen teleport was one of the most amazing things that I've done. It was vicious, and I was part of it.
Valve changed the way the ability functions, so fountain hooking was not as easy anymore. There were still variations using IO and refresher orbs, but they were too complicated and expensive to be done consistently. There were tons of XP changes that came in the patches after that, so Pudge eventually fell out of favor for better and more adaptive mid-heroes. Through the highs and lows of patch changes, Pudge has been one of the most played heroes in Dota of all time. There is no denying that there was a lot of innovation and ingenuity that went behind making this hero. So, it might be a surprise to learn that Pudge used to be a completely different hero back in 2003 when the game was first released. He used to be somewhat of a pusher, resurrecting the corpses of the dead that raised different units depending on what he ate and took towers. However, when Neichus was in charge of Dota All-Stars from 2004 to 2005, he made some pretty significant changes to the hero. He added the signature meat hook to Pudge, which would eventually go on to inspire several other characters and heroes in other games. Although, I wonder if he himself took the inspiration from Scorpion in Mortal Kombat. If it weren't for Neichus, Pudge would have never been what he is today. We owe all our favorite memories of the hero to this person. Neichus, if you're watching this video, we'd like to thank you for everything you did for the Dota community. And that's it for this video, guys. Before we leave though, let's talk about the issue we mentioned earlier. Now, we get over 100,000 views on our videos every month, but we barely see any of those people subscribing. Guys, we could really use your help in growing our channel, so please hit the subscribe button. So if you have any suggestions about which hero we should do next, drop a comment down below and we'll give you a shout out if we do a video on your hero. Now it's time for us to go AFK. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.